goes.
Up a track.
Through a gate, the food forest grows, with secrets and treasures for everyone's pleasure, and Rob's Discovery.
Hello, welcome back. It's the second week in April, and it's a particularly exciting time of year. Well, every time of year is exciting and has its own blessings, but from a culinary point of view, the temperature is not too hot and not too cold. And for those who don't have a refrigerator, like myself, or not a working one anyway, it's the one time of year when I can choose to use butter or olive oil. See, it's not too warm and my butter doesn't melt in the dish, and it's not too cold, so the olive oil is not solid in the bottle, so I can use both. However, I am working on a new design of fridge. Well, actually, it's an ancient design, but I just modified it slightly to my needs. It's a water-cooled fridge. It's quite cheap and simple to build. It's 2 terracotta pots, one slightly larger than the other. The smaller one slots inside the larger one with a buffer of sand in between, and they sit in a tray of water. And the idea is the outer pot wicks up the water, and as the water evaporates, it lowers the temperature inside, creating a cooling effect. So, as it warms up, we'll see if I can eat butter all throughout the year. Not that I should, but we'll see. The first episode of Rob's Discovery had lots of positive feedback and lots of really lovely comments. Thank you very much. It also prompted quite a few questions. One of which was, what was the pollen that the bees were collecting? It was dandelion pollen. Bloomin' obvious, really. They're everywhere. The bees are having an absolute feeding frenzy on them still. They're going berserk for all that pollen and nectar. Which was another question. What's the difference between pollen and nectar? I suppose the simple way of putting it is the nectar is like the carbohydrates of the bee's diet, and the pollen is like the protein. And bees collect one or the other and spend their whole working life, which is only a couple of weeks, towards the end of their life, either collecting nectar from the flowers or pollen. Well, in fact, there's a third thing they collect, which is resin and sap to make propolis, or bee resin as it's sometimes called. You saw at the beginning of the last video, I just made a tincture of it. And many of you have asked, what are the uses of propolis? It has many, many uses and has done for thousands of, well, for all of recorded history. It has highly antibacterial properties, and the properties of it change depending on the type of sap that the bees have collected to make it from. And that's the same with honey and pollen. The properties of the honey, the medicinal properties, change slightly depending on the type of nectar of the flower that the bees have been collecting it from. But you can use propolis internally or externally. It's good for disinfecting wounds and for boosting your immune system. I like to use it on my teeth and use it orally because it's really good for healing anything in your mouth. What other wild things are growing to eat? Okay, I can show you that too.
Wild things. Wild things. Where are you hiding? I want to eat everything. Tasty.
Well, there's Jack by the hedge with its zigzaggy edge, and hawthorn leaves, sometimes called bread and cheese.
Mine are a thornless variety, by the way.
New shoots of bramble. I can't help but sample. With a coconutty smack, I'll just keep coming back. Aquilegias, columbines, granny's bonnets. It has so many names upon it. This plant is terrific. It's just so prolific. I don't have much time, so can't be more specific. You all know mint. I'll just take a hint. Tangy, lemony sorrel, medicinal. Dandelions, weeds too many. But I am going to fill my belly.
I best pick some from my mum's tortoises too whilst I'm at it.
Penny cress or land cress can cause gardeners much distress. They spread like little sods with their exploding seed pods, but I just think they're the best.
Its roots aren't even deep enough to affect anything. Why aren't people eating more of this stuff? Time for a landcress sandwich, I think. Really good. Very nice indeed.
They contain vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin K, and iron and calcium.
This time last year, I was giving a talk, and one lady in the audience asked me, "So do you actually like anything you eat?" And to begin with, the answer was no, I didn't when I first started to eat more natural foods. But interestingly enough, since more or less giving up refined sugar, well, less really, my palate has changed somewhat. And now my body can tell, if I listen to it, what natural foods I should be eating and in what quantity. It's really fascinating, isn't it, how your body is the world's best nutritionist, if you listen to it, that is. Nearly fell over.
Well, it's a beautiful sunny day outside. Well, actually, it's not that sunny, it's quite grey and miserly. But it's still a beautiful day, and it's probably best if I get on and do some work in the greenhouse. After this.
It's doing spectacularly well in here. And look! Peaches, little fruits all over the peach tree. Very, very exciting. I don't know if you can see it on film, but it's actually raining in here. The sun's come out in the last few minutes and created a convection water cycle, so my greenhouse now has its own weather system thanks to this sheet of plastic. That's right, pheasant. Fascinating. So what actually is a forest garden? A very good question. Did that mouse squeaking just then? I think it's a nest of baby mice over there. Huh. At least they're safe from the cat in here. For now. A forest garden. Is it just gardening in a forest? Well, no. It's a multi-level, self-sustaining ecosystem of useful plants. In terms of structure, it's somewhere between an orchard and a fully mature forest. It's a lush paradise with hundreds of species all growing symbiotically together. Everything's planted for the maximum beneficial interconnections, like companion planting on a huge scale. It mimics ecosystems found in nature, but is designed for maximum productivity, and it takes a lot of setting up. But once it's done, well, it's done indefinitely. It's done for life, for generations. It has a canopy layer of nut trees and nitrogen-fixing trees, an understory of fruit-bearing trees, and a shrub layer containing currant and berry bushes. It has ground cover of perennial and herbaceous plants. Then there are several underground layers containing edible roots with all the necessary creatures and fungi for its functioning. Much of it is directly edible, but most of the plants are multifunctional with three purposes at least. The black locust tree is one example. It's a good nitrogen fixer, it's habitat for insects and birds, it's a brilliant windbreak and a hedgerow tree, it provides versatile wood for building or burning, it's great forage for honeybees, its leaves make a good mulch, and it has many medicinal uses and edible parts, only when cooked in this case, like the flowers and seeds. What I'm doing here today in the greenhouse is planting seeds. And like most things that I do, I plant seeds in a rather unusual way. Well, today, according to the lunar calendar, it's a good day for planting kale and Swiss chard and spinach seeds. So I have to wait for 3 days or so before I can plant the other things I'd like to plant. But today I'm planting kale seeds, and the way I do it is, oh, these seeds are tiny, is I take the seeds and place them under my tongue for at least 10 minutes. The warmth and the enzymes and the moisture in my mouth and the saliva help to bring the seeds to life and get them going. It's now nearly 10 minutes later and my mouth is filling up with saliva. You should really only do this with organic seeds or seeds you've kept yourself from the previous year, because otherwise you don't know what they're coated with. Many seeds are coated with fungicide and mouse repellents that could be poisonous to you. So I take the seeds out my mouth. That seems a little bit disgusting, but I can guarantee they are happy seeds. And then I plant them the way you'd normally plant seeds, in a seed tray, before putting them outside when they're big enough. And I normally don't water them for about 3 days, just to let them settle in. And that's it. I've had great success that way. I probably planted those seeds a little bit too early, but it's a lot less harmful to plant seeds too early than too late. So let's come back in a couple of weeks and see how they're doing. Where do I get my electricity from? You may have seen in the last video that I have an array of solar panels outside. I have 4 60-watt 12-volt panels, so that's 240 watts in total, and they all trickle charge a leisure battery. It's a 110 amp hour leisure battery, and this time of year, well, from and to the shoulder seasons, from April until November, I have as much power as I know what to do with. But it's a bit more difficult in the winter months, and I have to make power choices. I have to perhaps choose between charging my mobile telephone or listening to an episode of something on Radio 4, or I can choose between using a liquidizer to make soup or having an electric light on for a couple of hours, which makes me really, really appreciate electric, actually. It would be very easy to make more by making a wind turbine or getting some more solar panels, but yeah, the time will come. Another question. Are you rich? It depends what you mean by rich. Do you mean financially? Well, I'm living in a caravan. You've seen my monstrosity of a greenhouse, so I'll let you work that one out for yourself. Can we see you... Yeah, coffee wearing off now. Can we see you use King Alfred's cakes to make a fire? Why, yes. These have been drying nicely in my airing cupboard for a couple of weeks now. Let's see if we can shower some sparks onto one using this fire steel. You can use flint the old-fashioned way if you want to, but I seldom do because it's difficult. There we go. I split the thing in half, but still got some sparks on it. And as long as I keep huffing, it should get hotter and hotter. Just add a little bit of tinder to it in the form of a dirty tissue. That could equally be dried leaves or some fabric from your clothing or your hair or something else. But I just happen to have tissues on me. Fire! I'll probably just let it go out rather than feed it, but you get the idea. I couldn't resist showing you this spectacular specimen before I go. Do you know what it is? It's a Tuna sinensis, or Chinese cedar tree. It's eaten as a staple vegetable all over China. It's a little bit early to eat it yet because it's not fully formed and I ought to give it a chance. But I can't resist just a little nibble. It tastes very unusually like smoked fish.